What is going on, everybody? Pounding Rocks checking in. I wanted to touch base about the previous video that I had on the Pathfinder pickup because it was only a minute and a half and I was talking about Phil Collins the entire time, which I do strongly believe that when Phil Collins retired, that the world became a darker place. But that's not what this video is about. Um, so what you guys saw in that video was the supercharged 3.3 liter VG33ER actually inside Pathfinder pickup, which is pretty obvious in the video. But I just wanted to point out that so far, that everything that I've wanted to accomplish has kind of happened. It's kind of amazing because that's not usually how things work out for me. But it really just started out with me stabbing the transmission into the flywheel and pilot bushing back there, and it just it went right in. I was like, wow, this is quite unbelievable. And then from there, I got all the engine mount hardware together, and from there it just kind of happened. It kind of snowballed from there. We did run into one small problem. Let me back up a little bit. So the oil pan on your VG30, VG33 does not clear the front differential with the actual differential still in the truck. So you have to drop the differential out. Whether it doesn't matter how much angle you put on the engine or anything, it's not going to go. So I knew I had to do the left front CV shaft anyways on that truck. So a couple weeks ago I was at the shop and I dropped the front diff right out. There's actually like just a handful of bolts that you need. The worst parts are getting the CV shaft bolts out. You got to kind of turn. Well, since I didn't have an engine in that truck, there was nothing to keep it from spinning the axles when I tried to undo anything because there's no weight. So I had to keep locking the hubs in the four wheel, and then breaking the bolt loose, taking the bolt out, unlocking the four wheel drive, turning the shaft to the next bolt, locking the four wheel drive, undoing the bolt. I had to do that 10 times because there's 5 bolts on each side. Not a lot of room to work, but once I got that out, then there's bolts, like 2 long bolts with a plate, and I think there's a 1 bolt in the front that hold it in. So once you undo all that, the diff should roll right out. I ended up taking it up from the top. I grabbed it and I just lifted it right out of the truck and set it aside. So then there's a cross member that diff actually sits on that's held in by 2 bolts on each side. I zip those bolts out and drop that cross member down, and then there's the cross member that actually holds the rear of the transmission up, that's got where the transmission mounting bushing actually goes. That also, well, since it's going from being an automatic truck to a stick, I had to swap the cross members because even though the bolt patterns are the same for the mounts, the location is slightly off. So because I did hold those 2 brackets together and they are slightly different, so I ended up dropping that cross member down. So that opened up the whole channel, like right underneath the whole truck. It just it did that. So that was pretty good. The only thing I couldn't get was and I don't know what's going on with this transmission. I didn't want to tinker with it too much because it actually shifts, it spins and everything like that. But when you took all the snap rings out, the actual shift handle does not come out. It does not pop out the way like the 2-wheel drives did. I even took the cover off and looked inside, and that was just not happening. So, yeah, so I ended up having to cut the shifter off at the bottom. So there's just a little stub coming out of the top of the transmission. That's not the way I wanted to do it. But once we tipped everything and started pushing it down into the truck, the shifter, which I was hoping was going to clear the firewall and go underneath because there's a 3-inch body lift and all the cross members are out of the way. I was hoping that was just going to slide down and go in. wasn't happening, so we ended up cutting that, but that's okay because with the 3-inch body lift, the shifter sits 3 inches lower now. So I'm gonna weld a section onto it to bring that shifter back up to the correct height. I'm gonna put 3 inches of round stock in there. That'll bring the shifter up to the original height because I do want it to look OEM. I want it to look factory. So I'm gonna keep that the Coke bottle shifter. But I'm just gonna weld a 3-inch piece of square or round stock to the bottom of it, and then weld that back to what's down there. The other problem I ran into was the 4-wheel drive shifter itself. That came off okay. That's not a problem. But there's a piece of linkage that goes between that and the actual pivot arm that engages 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive. That linkage arm has like a heim joint, ball joint kind of setup on it. And the lower ball joint, heim joint piece had frozen. Now I had sprayed it with PB Blaster a couple weeks ago, but that never freed it up. So I went to go pull the handle to move it into a different position, and it just sheared that right off. So I actually have to go into the parts transmission I have in the other room, pull that linkage off, bring it over there, and try and free everything up so I can get it in there. That's like a nice little hold up there. So that's not a big deal. I can do that because I can work on it from above, and there's plenty of room underneath, so that's not going to be a big deal. The only things left to do to tie up is I got to get that transmission cross member back in with the mount. So then once I do that, I can take the jack stand out from underneath that, front diff back in, and then I can get the drive shafts front and rear in. So then the engine, transmission, differentials, drive shafts, everything's in the truck. And then at that point, I'm going to start working with the easy stuff. I'm going to get the actual like water lines and fuel lines and power steering lines in place. I got to stretch two power steering lines 3 inches. So I'm just going to replace those hoses with new hoses that are going to be 3 inches longer than what was originally there. Once all that's plumbed in, then we can start worrying about wiring. So that's what you're seeing. That's what we did. That was a lot of work, but the engine's in there. The 3.0 mounts are exactly the same as the 3.3 mounts, so you can do a 3.3 swap easy. You can get a 3.3 ER swap in there, but you're going to have to do some more shenanigans to actually get it to work properly. One of the things I'm looking at doing is bypassing the boost control because I want boost all the time. I don't want to wait till it's wide open throttle to kick a switch and then turn, and close the boost actuator. I want that the second I start it up. So I'm going to try and figure it out and make sure that it's not going to hurt anything by doing it. It's 7 to 9 pounds max, so I really don't see a major problem with that. So I've already started doing the research into that stuff. The novel is like this thick now. It's ridiculous. So hopefully I've got everything, all my bases covered. Other than that, I've been just working on my new daily, which is the Sienna van. You guys saw in the live video that I killed the Nissan daily I bought back in March. Didn't last, so I bought a Sienna, and it needed some work, but we're getting there. So that's been occupying my time. In the meantime, I've been driving this turd here, and it's holding up okay. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, just give me a holler. It's Rainmaker_D21 at Instagram, and or it's going to be Nissan Rallycross Truck at gmail.com. Just send me a message, or like, share, and subscribe. Put a comment down below. I thank everybody for tuning in, and have a good week. Take care now. Bye.